Tanzanito Demtek. Hello, everyone. My name is Cathy Richardson, and I'm here today with a fabulous person and, um, well, social worker, counselor, helper from Australia. And I'm going to let Kimberly Chiswell introduce herself properly, and then she is going to interview me on the topic of the humiliation of children. And I just want to start by also acknowledging that I'm on the wonderful lands of the Kanien'kehá:ka here in Tiohtià:ke, Montreal. And so, Kimberly, will you introduce yourself and tell us where you are and a little bit about your background?
Yeah, thanks, Kathy. Yeah, as you said, I'm a social worker. I refer to myself as a social worker in recovery because I'm unlearning a lot of ideas about helping. And I am passionate about understanding interpersonal and institutional violence, specifically gender-based violence, from in an interpersonal and institutional perspective. And I'm privileged enough to be working alongside Aboriginal communities. I am coming to you from the lands, the Yuin country, on the south coast of Australia. And I was born in Mexico, where two language groups meet, the Tenek and the Nahuatl language groups. But I've lived here all my life.
Thanks. And so, do you want to describe a little bit about what we're going to see in the interview in terms of how you work?
Yeah, so I was trained for many years in narrative therapy, including the work from the Dulwich Centre, as well as relational approaches from Janella Bird in Aotearoa. So what I'm curious about is how to, uh, uh, but but what's really interesting is staying in the landscape of action with social interactions and how and the context in which social interactions take place. And so response-based practice really hones in on that, and provides a really rich way of describing more accurately the what happened. And then from there, building upon people's responses and the work that you've done in terms of the medicine wheel, understanding that people respond in many ways. And then looking at how those responses may be informed by previous experiences, knowledges and abilities that are developed over time and are reflective of what people value. And so
Hmm.
then you can use narrative therapy to thicken those narratives about resistance and responses and values and principles and look at what that then makes possible from that vantage point. So yeah, that's kind of my approach.
Mm, great. I'm excited. So it is a real conversation. I'm not just doing a role play of a client. I'm going to share something from my own life, and I might change the name of a few of the people just to protect their anonymity. But yeah, thank you for doing this, and I'm just going to hand it over to you. And yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Before we get into the account, is it okay if I take some notes just to keep track of what you're saying and what my thought processes are separately? Is that okay?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's fine with me. Yeah.
Um, I love one of your questions, which is if I could stuff this up, is there what would I do to stuff this conversation up? Is there, I'd like to start there.
I I honestly can't think of anything that you would do to stuff it up. But in general, I just appreciate, a sense of my story being tracked and that you're interested in how I responded and how I made certain decisions. And yeah, I really can't think of anything that you would do that would be off track, but yeah.
If at any point you we've been doing the tracking and then you think I've missed something, would you be able to let me know to come back?
Sure, I will. Yep.
Okay. Um, so let's start off with where were you, how old you were, what was happening at the time.
Hmm. So you know that I'm Indigenous to Canada. I'm a member of the Métis Nation, and my mom is from a community called Fort Chipewyan. And so that's up in northern Alberta. It's a fly-in community. In the summer, you can also go by barge or canoe. And in the winter, there's an ice road, but generally, you need to take an airplane there. It's pretty far north. If you've seen the movie The Revenant, it's even more north than that. But that guy did go to my mom's community when he was filming that movie, Leonardo DiCaprio, I think. So it's far away, and I was about I don't know, maybe I was like 10 years old around there, and I was living on Vancouver Island, and living, I guess I was living with my mom and my dad and my sister at that time. And I had a best friend, and her name
Mm,
was Mandy. And summer was coming, and we were going up to Fort Chipewyan, my family. But it's very expensive, still is, to fly up north in Canada. It's cheaper to fly to Europe, really. It's one of those things, right? So I decided that I wanted my friend Mandy to come, but
mm.
her parents had 5 kids and they didn't have a lot of extra money, so she didn't have like cash to throw around. So I said, well, let's devise a plan to make some money. So what I did was we thought we'd have a raffle. So I went to the store, to one of the local Stedmans or something, and I bought a big lemonade pitcher and about 4 glasses, and they were pretty tacky. We still had one at my mom's house, I think, last year. They were thick green glass. And we got a wagon, and we decided we're going to go sell tickets. So we're going to raffle this off and earn some money. So my dad worked, he had a drugstore. He was a pharmacist. So we went and we stopped in there and I told him what we were going to do. And so he took his one of his prescription pads and he made raffle tickets for us. Like I don't know what he did. Yeah, wrote some
Yeah.
things on them and made it so we could rip on the line and give
Oh, yes.
people. So yeah, so basically I had my dad's support. And I don't know where my mom was in all that. She would never really mind me taking initiative to do something like that. And yes, we were walking all around my little village asking people if they would like to buy a raffle ticket. And so we sold quite a few, and we just probably got 50 cents or something for each raffle ticket. And then we got to my grandparents' house. And this is my dad's parents, like they were from England. And so we knocked at the door and we asked them if they wanted to buy a raffle ticket. And they kind of freaked out. And like, what are you doing? Da da da. And then they said to me, you can't do this. It's illegal. You need a lottery license. Like you need a license to have a raffle. Um, and they really put the kibosh on it. And it really felt terrible. But what I remember is they phoned my dad and what is she doing? She's not allowed to do that. They were so fearful that I was gonna get caught and I was doing something illegal. I don't know if that's an immigrant thing, like you don't want to get arrested in this new country or something. But yeah, so they made us go all around the town giving
Mm.
all the money back to everyone who had bought a ticket from us. And some of the people we knew, and it was excruciatingly embarrassing. It was really, really painful. And so we did that. We found most of the people and we gave them their money back. And
Just interrupt for a second.
yeah.
I'm I okay, so I'm imagining two young girls, 10-year-olds, walking around the streets, talking to people that they probably already knew, like community members.
A lot of them. Yeah.
Yeah. And who generously gave you 50 cents for a ticket. And you've done this for a bit, everything's going kind of good, and then you knock on your grandparents' door and they say what they say about being illegal. When they called your dad, what did your father say about, like, because you said that you both your mum didn't mind if you're taking initiative and your dad supported you with the tickets. Like, just curious about how that interaction went between your grandparents and your father. Do you know that? Do you know how?
Yeah. Well, we went back to my dad's store, and when I saw him, I just started crying. I was
Yeah.
I felt so terrible and embarrassed, and he just gave me a hug. Like I don't, I guess he felt, I mean, it was really a small thing in the scope of the universe, but he probably felt like a little bit in between. Like he didn't
Mm.
mind, he helped us, but he wasn't going to tell his parents, to go stuff themselves either. Like he had a really good relationship and a lot of respect for his parents. They were lovely people and they were really helpful to him. They were like Methodists, which is supposed to be like a more kind of socialist kind of segment of that United Church, and they were really helpful people, but not in this case. And so, yeah, I remember having a cry, and he gave me a hug. And then we had to take the stupid jug home, and we were pulling it around in a wagon, like it was really professional. So that jug lived in my mom's house, like for what was it, like well, at least 50 years. And every time we'd look at it, we'd laugh and think of this terrible story. Um, yeah,
What
so,
made the laughing possible about the terrible story?
well, it like just that it cringy that it was so embarrassing and that we still had it. And I don't know if it started then, but I've always been really, what's the word? I don't want to use too harsh a word. I'll just say I do not prefer people who are rule sticklers. I avoid them, you know, and people that read the fine print and come in with like petty rules.
Yeah,
They drive me crazy. I try to avoid all that. It's just not me at all.
yeah, yeah.
And like who cares if we're breaking some lottery rule? Nobody's gonna ever do anything about that, right?
No, and that's why I'm wondering, um, I've got lots of questions about the rule stickler position, but in terms of when I'm just imagining you going back to the people who'd given you the money. What did you say to them and how did they respond?
I I'm not exactly sure, but I have a feeling I probably said, "Oh, we were told we have to give the money back because we don't have a lottery license."
Okay. Okay.
And I remember one person, I didn't know them, but they said, "Oh, I was wondering about that, like whether this was kind of legit or something." Yeah, this was so hokey. It was not legit at all, obviously. But yeah, so
People
really,
in the community didn't really care that it
oh,
was
they
legit. Yeah.
were just kids, We were
Yeah.
just kids, and I really wanted to help my friend. And
Yeah.
yeah.
How was she in all of this?
I really don't remember. Like most, I feel like I was the leader of this expedition, and she was with me, and we were really good friends. I'm sure we talked about it. Um, she probably said something about my grandparents being a bit uptight.
Yeah. Yeah.
I never liked that feeling of that yeah, people that were really square and tried to tell me what to do. It really impinged on my free-spiritedness. But in this case, what I remember is that sting of humiliation. Yeah.
Mm. So the sting of humiliation and the feeling of people being square.
Well, the first one was way worse. Like I said, I can't remember if I've always been like that or if it was a result of this. just feeling like I don't like to be micromanaged. I don't like to be held down by institutional rules and you have to do it this way. Uh, yeah,
Your
it's
mum say, you
like,
said, I don't know if I've always been like this. If your mum was present in this conversation, and I know she's recently passed, what would she say about whether or not you were always like this?
yeah, I think she'd say, "Oh, Kathy's been doing her own thing since day one," or something like that. Yeah, probably.
Is there a story that she would tell about that?
Uh, well, yeah, maybe. I'm thinking of another time that I I was pretty humiliated, but I I think a lot of my so-called mischief happened later, after that event. You know, getting up to schemes and doing things and then kind of getting caught and told, "Oh, you can't do that," you know.
Mm, mm.
And there was it was worse later because people would say, "Oh, I'm really disappointed in you."
Oh, really?
Things like that. Yeah, yeah. Well, again, my mom was super supportive, and after about the age of 13, she just treated me more like a friend.
Mm,
She was always sort of on my side, you
mm.
know.
Well, yeah, you said that when you said I didn't know where my mum was at this point, but I think she let me do my own thing. Like she knew you were someone who had initiative and you would go and do things. Um, even before this incident. Uh, so
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. So it was not a surprise to her, or I'm guessing to your father that you were doing something like this. Um,
No, I just can't think of a good example
yeah,
from when I was
no,
young, but
that's
yeah.
um, in response-based practice, we think about emotional emotions as, if not as effects, but as responses. Um,
Hmm.
and you said that you felt humiliated.
Hmm.
And I'm wondering why humiliation was what that was reflective of, what it said about what you valued, or what how humiliation was the response that you took up.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I just thought of myself as a fundraiser and a mature person that could make decisions and trying to be helpful to my friend. And so I look at that as, I was taking initiative, I was organized, I was trying to do a good thing. And then these adults who were my grandparents,
Mm,
who I love a lot, they
mm,
they just treated me like I was a stupid little kid who didn't know the laws. Just not that I was like on purpose breaking them, but yeah, to be treated like you're so stupid, not congratulated for taking a risk.
was the idea that they were treating you as someone who was stupid, was that in the way they said it, or in what they said?
Well, they were super concerned. And who knows, like there could be other thought processes behind it, but they acted pretty well as a team without having much time to prepare that. But imagining that they were worried that I'd get in trouble, I don't know. I don't know if it had something to do with me being Indigenous and them not. And
Mm.
knowing that Indigenous people were not treated the same as others, or I don't really know what they
Yeah.
were thinking. But I think it was kind of this good Samaritan thing, like you don't break the law.
Mm, mm. And as you think about the potential intentions that were behind their comments, um, and the potential awareness of racialized responses to Indigenous children, in particular in the context of law breaking. Just like I'm just wondering where the how to kind of reconcile, like not reconcile, I don't know, but like the generosity that you have of kind of being willing to understand where they're coming from, whilst also acknowledging the sense that you had at the time of stupid little kid. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if
Mhm.
it's a question. It's not a narrative or response-based question. It's just a
No,
curiosity, you know?
I don't know if that was a pivotal moment for me, but then we started getting into more mischief, and maybe I was just given a big like, sort of telling the society to, um, that to leave us alone. We're going to do what we want. So my friend and I, we started sleeping outside in her yard, and in the middle of the night, we would go in someone's garden and steal carrots and eat them. Stuff like that. Or we'd play Nicky Nicky Nine, or we'd go run up and knock on someone's door and then go hide in the bush and then watch them come out and look around. Like, I know it's a kid's mind, but we just love doing pranks. But I wonder if I got this idea that I'm going to torment the adult community because of how I was mistreated. So I wonder if something came
Yeah,
out of that.
yeah, yeah. And when you hear yourself wondering that, does that fit? Does that does you know what I mean? Like it's a wondering, but do you think that wondering holds weight, veracity?
I think for a little while, like if I was 10, I probably felt like that till I was 13. And after that, I just looked at myself as an adult. My parents separated. My dad moved out. I lived with my mom and my sister. The three of us were like roommates, and I just took care of myself. And so I was not about being parented or having rules over me, but it's still up until 10, I still had respect for adults. And I remember the day actually that I lost respect for adults, but it changes you, and I think I just thought, kids have the same value as adults, you know,
Mm,
and
mm,
babies, like baby, kids aren't stupid. They're just younger.
yeah,
So I've always, even in my work, treated people like as if they're all human beings.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And who uh, it strikes me that that way of work of communicating, relating to children, stands up in the face of a lot of the ways that children are treated in society. Um, probably have a couple of questions. You can choose which one you um
Mhm.
I think one of the things you said before is that this could have been a big, not FU, but a big, like an act of resistance to the way that children have been treated. And you also mentioned something about you remember the day when you lost respect for adults.
Mhm.
And then I don't know where I'm going with this, but I think one of the questions then is how have you held on to this respect for children in the face of a society which treats them as lesser intelligence, lesser um in voice. Yeah.
Mhm. How have I held on to it? Well, I guess it gets even more vehement in me the more that I see children being mistreated. I mean, recently we've seen the exposure of so many perpetrators and child abusers, and of course it's outrageous. But even I used to be a school teacher, and
I didn't know that.
yeah, well, I got out of it because I learned that in that system you were meant to control those children and threaten them and discipline them, and if you did not do that, you were not seen as a competent teacher. And of course, the kids would run amok. I mean, they want to do what they want to do. And so that was one of the reasons I decided to go into counseling because I really liked working with young people and old people sometimes, and but I wanted to work in smaller groups. I didn't want to do classroom management because I just saw it as part of this whole colonial child factory. And of course, I've worked with lots of residential school survivors who were treated abominably as children. One of the things today in my teaching and supervision, I realized that there must have been some course in Canada on, I don't know, working with children where they taught adults to call them kiddos. And it really bugs me. And what I try to flip it, and I said to myself, what would adults do if kids started calling adults like adult heads or some weird, slightly derogatory name? They wouldn't stand for it, right?
Yeah. No, they have to refer to Miss or Mrs., Richardson or whatever. And, there's that deference, right?
Yeah.
For,
But I mean, so maybe not everybody minds it, but I hate it when people call me kiddo. I get adult, like people calling me kiddo now, and I'm 64 years old. I mean, I'm very polite, but I want
yeah.
to, I want to say something really rude. I don't, but yeah.
So the question then is that you have held on to that commitment to treat children with respect.
Mm.
And it actually informed your decision to step away from the colonial child factory of education system because of the ways that you were expected to manage and control children. Yeah, so this valuing of respecting the intelligence of children has been something um, that comes from a very young age, and um, and has informed your career choice as well. Like up at yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I can tell you another time uh that I was really shut down. My dad used to play on a softball team, and so we went out to watch him play, and he was up to bat, and my aunt and uncle, like my dad's younger brother and his wife were there, and then all these drunk men. And there when my dad was going up to, to be the hitter,
Mm.
there was this man beside me and he was pissed and he was yelling really rude things to my dad. So I was just a little kid and I turned to him and I said, "Why don't you shut your mouth?" And my aunt and uncle, they really uh were strong about that. They turned to me and said, "Don't you talk, hey, you don't talk to adults like that." And I was just like protecting my dad. And of course, I don't really like drunk men, unless they're my friends, I guess, but not like that public. I'm going to
Yeah,
be an ass kind of drunkenness. And
yeah.
and now I understand they had to do that because that guy could have gotten in a fight with them. Or,
Mm.
he could have been really violent, and so they have to pretend that they're containing this child who's being rude. But I was
So,
steeped.
so your experience of that was that they were referring to you as being rude rather than protecting you from him. Is that?
Indignant. I was indignant. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you want to say more about that term indignant? I think you've been called the dignity queen. I'm just curious about.
Yeah. Well, it's just, I think, dignity is a kind of energy or feeling that you have inside you that makes you feel proud and to sit or stand upright and to smile and feel, kind of energetically big in the world. You feel like it's a good place. You feel respected, kind of happy, that kind of thing, lighthearted, maybe. And I think it's a real sign of well-being.
Mm.
Yeah, and it's interactional. We do it for each other. We hold each other up. But when people, shut us down or tell us our ideas are stupid or they won't support us or whatever, it
Mm,
feels so diminishing and
mm,
restrictive and you just want to you have to shrink. It's and I guess for my whole life I've had that feeling like people were telling me like you're just taking up too much space. And I think that rule breaking was a little bit part of it. Like, you just need to be quiet and behave yourself, either as a kid or as a woman or whatever. Like, don't take up too much space. But I think dignity is the opposite. It's like we should be able to radiate, right?
mm.
Express
Yeah.
some joy and let that spill over to others. And we should be having a good time together on this planet.
How does that value of being able to, or that this idea that we should be able to radiate joy, how does that shape your day-to-day kind of like the way you take up space in the world, like on a day-to-day basis? Like,
Yeah. Well, I really try to avoid the rules, the detail-oriented tasks. So you got to, fill out these forms. Like that stuff, the minutia, the bureaucracy, I try to avoid it as much as possible. And I try to do something every day that I think is fun or enlightening or lighthearted or connecting. Whatever that is, like if I feel like I get to choose, like I just love this sense of freedom. And
mm,
uh, yeah, I think that's part of dignity, being able to choose what you want for yourself. I mean, not obviously anything and everything, but I'm not hurting other people. I'm just choosing how I want to spend my day in ways that bring me happiness or joy or a sense of connection or belonging. I don't want that to be diminished by other people.
mm. Um, who else in your past, in your family, in your ancestry, in your community would share this commitment to freedom and you haven't said the word self-determination, but but something to do with being able to choose.
Yeah, for sure. Well, my youngest son is like me in a number of ways. He's really into freedom. He is traveling right now, and I share that. I mean, backpacking. When I was younger, I backpacked around the world and just loved seeing things and being in other cultures and um, kind of being free. And also, he really likes to avoid work, like, work in the system. And so he did a master's degree because he learned that he could get some bursaries. So
Mhm.
reading and writing comes quite easy to, people in my family. So, yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think about, well, if money wasn't an issue, what would I be doing? And I think I'd be spending a lot of time every year just traveling.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
want to see all the beautiful things on this planet before it's destroyed too much.
yeah, yeah. Um, can I come back to when you said that your parents split up and that you and your siblings were kind of taking care of each other and and you weren't interested in being parented. Is that what you said? I was not about being parented.
Yeah, well, I think you get there because you're not being parented very much, right? And then you just get used to having a certain amount of freedom. I mean, my dad would have had some rules and boundaries and everything, but he didn't live with us. And so
Yeah.
I had a lot of room to explore.
Mm.
Yeah.
I think the way that um, child protection industries respond to children who may not be parented in the traditional ways of parenting would
Mhm.
have something to say about that and what might be like what might be likely to happen to a child who wasn't being parented in the way that society would expect parenting to take place. I'm wondering what you think about that.
Well, I guess I have to count my blessings that I was pretty lucky. I didn't really get too hurt.
Mm.
Some people, some young women get really hurt, right? Um, so I think we do have to have concern for young people in society, as adults, as social workers. But the way we show that shouldn't be, what's the word? Carcetor, like in terms of incarceration.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Carceral responses.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We don't
yeah,
need carceral responses. We need to spend time with young people and listen and
yeah,
take interest in what they're doing and learn from them because they know so much and see how they're processing some really
yeah,
complicated things, or
yeah,
like technology or sex or whatever, like to learn from them how to be better helpers to them or allies because that's what babies do for their parents. They teach their parents how to be parents, right? You don't
yeah.
know before your babies come. And so social workers really need to um kind of back off. You can be in the life of a young person and check in with them. Like, what do you need? What would be helpful to you? What are your goals and aspirations? How can I leverage some resources from the state to help you get there, but not like curfews and restrictions and
Mm.
I mean, and we know that the more you put rules on, the more that people just want to break them. Yeah. If you just, I'm not saying anything goes, like I'm not into violence, but
Yeah.
let children are going to need to learn about the world and explore a bit. And so we could be a lifeline to them. But I think
Mm.
social work is far too, what do you say, like bureaucrat. It's all about rules. And it's not even that they have that much time to care for young people, like
Yeah.
in actions. It's like, oh, I got to write all these files and write reports and account for every cup of tea I buy somebody and every mile I drive. And that's what that kind of work is like.
Mm. Mm. And so I'm thinking about young Cathy at the age of 13 and what if a social worker had asked you the question that you just said there is what is your aspirations? What would she have said?
Oh, well, I would have said, what's on the menu? Like, what's possible? What can you do for us? I remember there was this social worker, and it wasn't through her work, but she looked out for certain young people, I guess, on her caseload. It wasn't child protection, but like family support in a way. And so she was supporting two young fellows that were my friends. And so she offered to take us to a rock concert. And I thought that was so fabulous. And the idea was that we would have loved to have gone anyway. And she's an adult and she'll be with us like a chaperone. And my dad didn't like it and said to her, why are you taking like 13-year-olds to a rock concert? They're too young. But he didn't have any idea that not all children were as protected as I was.
Mm.
Some people they didn't have much in terms of care or parenting. So that was a bit of a world clash. I guess I was too middle class or something but I think I went anyway. Yeah. So
So
anyway,
it's surprising.
yeah, I think it's good to accompany young people, let them know that you're there and what could be helpful. So if I had a choice, I would have loved to learn things. Maybe go horseback riding, maybe learn how to do more like, you know, knitting or weaving, or go to a camp and learn some skills. Like I don't know what's on the menu, but I like doing fun, adventurous things. Yeah.
Mm. That's a very 13-year-old kind of response is, like adventurous things and learning new skills. I'm just wondering, um, as a social worker, previous teacher, previous young person, how has this understanding of accompanying young people shaped the way that you um like what you choose to do in your life work, in your career, in your teachings, in your
Yeah, well, I guess you could say I've always been a social work reformist. I'm not sure. Sometimes I'm an abolitionist and sometimes I'm a reformist,
Mm,
um, because the system really has to change, especially in how Indigenous children are treated. And that's your area of specialty as well. So I don't have to tell you about that. But that is very violent and colonial. And I sometimes I feel like, well, maybe they shouldn't even be allowed to interact with Indigenous people. But what if those social workers did what I had just suggested, built relationships, accompanied, witnessed, learned about what young people were interested in, what they could provide for them from the state, uh, but not just be about I want you to tell on your parents. I want you to like snitch on people that you love, and then maybe I'll have to move you to another house because I got you to do that. Now we have to
mm,
move you away from your parents because now we know what they're doing. And the assumption was that you weren't managing it yourself. Oh, and we don't want to see you parentified, which is it, I think it's just really unreasonable, especially if you're a mature child. You're going to do everything you can to help the people that you love. And sometimes that looks really quirky. From the outside, if people don't have the context, they don't understand why you're doing what you're doing. I mean,
mm.
most people in the village, they didn't ask any questions about why my friend had to raise money to go on a holiday because her parents wouldn't have cash to give her and she couldn't she really wanted to join us and she would have got to
Quite quirky.
yeah. I mean, there wasn't the people were neutral. Some were
Mm,
helpful, but they didn't ask when they weren't curious about us.
mm. Yeah, yeah.
My grandparents responded like social workers. And so
Mm.
that's why I've spent my adult career trying to change the way social workers act.
Yeah, I want to pick up on what you said there. The assumption that we weren't managing things ourselves, or that as a young person, you're not managing things as well, I think is often something that is overlooked. Um, um, and if you were to, if you were to give a name to this approach of being curious, like if there was a policy, right,
Yeah.
in the social welfare child protection space,
Mhm.
which included accompanying young people, being curious, spending time with them, developing relationships with them, what would you call that kind of policy?
What would I call it? Well, it would have something to do with the dignity of the child, and it would be described as, you know, uplifting the child through I know that has a different connotation in down under. Respecting the child in terms of aligning with their needs and preferences, ambitions, aspirations, desires. It's not about imposing upon them. It's it's about, learning about who they are and what they think they need to become, fulsome adults.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
about having too many opinions about what
Mm.
other people need. So this idea of imposition is really impositional. Yeah.
Mm. Mm. We started off this conversation by talking about um, the context in where you grew up and your friendship and the fundraising and then the shutdown from your grandparents. And we've come to the point where we've been talking about all of the ways that you have resisted similar kinds of impositions of adult-centric ways of knowing and
Hmm.
um how has this conversation been for you? What's it been like to reflect upon this time in this way? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can really feel it inside myself. There were moments where I felt a bit wobbly. Um, like feeling those feelings that I felt at the time. And they were like, disappointment, some embarrassment or humiliation, but also this righteous indignation. Like, I'm a pretty capable young person, and if I get in trouble, it's only because somebody took a cookie cutter and put a law around me. It's not because I was doing anything inherently unethical, antisocial, or violent. And um
Mm.
yeah, so I got, to feel some of those feelings again, which is good because I'll go away and process them. And yeah, one thing that I'm thinking about that's really curious to me is why I never saw my grandparents do anything like that to any other person.
Oh, ah.
Yeah.
And why do you think that's something that catches your curiosity?
Well, maybe everyone else was really well behaved. They stayed within the lines or something.
Mm.
And they probably wanted their grandkids to have a really good reputation. They were in a church and stuff. They probably didn't want me to become a young criminal and thought they were setting me straight.
But it was the opposite. Had the opposite.
I think
You
it launched
you
my
did
career. Yeah. 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 Yeah, I start slowly realize that adults, just because they're older, they don't really know any better.
Mm, mm, mm. Yeah. Yeah. Can you think of any young people who've benefited from your position that just because you were an adult in their life that you didn't know any better?
Well, I think some of the young people in my family,
Mm.
I always treated my nieces and nephews as if they were full human beings that were interesting and, you know, knowledgeable and responsible. Um, in their context. I don't, if you ask my kids, your own children always have something else to say, but they would probably comment that mostly I was a really good mom and that I was a bit outside the box, a bit out of the lines, a bit rebellious sometimes. And they also tried to rein me in a bit. Maybe my daughter, like, Mom, don't embarrass yourself, or Mom, don't speak up, or whatever. Um, but that's intergenerational stuff too, right?
Yeah, intergenerational stuff in terms of what do you mean by that?
Oh, well, I guess they're intergenerational responses. Like it's not like epigenetics or they're affected like in intergenerational effects of this or that. It's you know, one generation struggles, the other one gets on their feet, and then the next one kind of takes things for granted, maybe, or um, because I fought in lots of causes, like for feminist women's rights, then my daughter can take it easy, or at least, you know, try to not allow things to backslide too much. But we
Mm.
make it easier for our young ones when we do hard work, and then their kids will probably have to do hard work of a different nature, but they've enjoyed some of the fruits of our activism, I think.
So back then, as a 10-year-old, you could have chosen to um, fall in line as your grandparents would have wanted and expected you to not embarrass the family and to not get in trouble with the law. Um, however, your approach has been to fight for people's rights and to question authority and to avoid the kinds of bureaucratic rules that diminish you and restrict your freedoms. Um, so, um, yeah, I want to thank you, I think, for that reflection of not just the humiliation, but of the righteous indignation
Mm.
um, that that has driven so much of your work and has had in an intergenerational um like that your daughter and your nieces and nephews and have experience and your son have a different world as a result of the fights that you fought. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think so. And they've learned a little bit about struggle, but also about education, right? That's
Mm.
important. Yeah.
In what sense?
Well, I think education can open up some doors and offer some freedoms, because of where it can take you, and certainly
Yeah,
in your thinking.
yeah. So
Even being able to see multiple perspectives or to have a critical analysis of the news, um, I, I think that helps to align us with our humanity. Yeah.
and on that note, I think we can end because aligning with the with humanity is with our humanity
Hmm.
is is an incredible. What does this conversation make possible for you? You said before time to reflect and process some of those feelings. What else is it?
Yeah, I think it invites me to be in tune or spend time with that younger version of myself and to appreciate things about my family, but also that spirit of uh, rebellion against mistreatment. I think
Mm,
that's important. I think it's important to celebrate that,
yeah,
uh, because we don't want to live in a factory world, really. And to think about children. Sometimes when you're in a group, the children that are the most naughty are actually the most fun, but
yeah,
also hard to deal with sometimes, because then they do require us to learn how to be helpful adults,
yeah.
not just shut them down. And so it does make you really think, you have to be on your toes and think, how can I be a good ally to this child rather than how can I get them just to shut up, which is
Mm,
what a lot of, I think, people think about kids.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
Well,
you so
yeah, I want to thank you. Yeah, it was pretty special to remember my family in this way. Yeah.
taking us there. Remembering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Mm,
So for everyone who's watching the video, I hope there's something meaningful for you in it, and maybe it'll get you reflecting on your own childhood and your family and some of the things that help you to become a grown up.
mm,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. Thank you so much, Cathy. Do you want
Okay.
me to end the recording now?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Request. Mm. Just trying to look at how to end the recording. Recording settings.
I'll just close the computer.
Um,